And thanks for joining us this Sunday on our channel of choice, Africa Independent Television AIT. Let me welcome you to the signature show. I'm Wabozi Njoko, and in this edition of the program, there is a question that seeks a well-thought-out answer. Is mortality a mystery or a mockery? As President Bola Ahmed Tinubu meets service chiefs, he must consider the failure of the Office of the National Security Advisor in the past 8 years. It's important. House of Representatives wants the federal government to remove all subsidy on all petroleum products, plus our thank you. It is a reminder edition, which I'm sure that you don't want to miss. Please, I ask you to stay with us. Now, the concept of creation and an almighty God and the end of man in heaven or hell has kept the human society organized into fates towards an expected end of reward or damnation. It has also made mortality less obsessive and less frightening because with your conduct, we believe and are comforted, you can design your own end. But that you go to hell or that you go to heaven, does it resolve mortality, remove its mystery, or is there aught we have not understood and which therefore mocks our existence? Look, I've watched the meteor eat up distance in the firmament and then burn out. It moves with a seeming force of energy and then ends its existence. Is it the same with man? If it is, what's the payback for the force of good and the force of bad, since each of them must burn out? These questions agitate me this Sunday, if you ask me. But in the past 2 months, I have worked closely with High Chief Raymond Aleo-Dokpesi, founder of Dark Communication PLC. The meetings that went into the early hours of the following day were sessions in questions on the place of the black man in the global equation. They were sessions in what constitutes the good of Nigeria and the role of the media in achieving that good. They were sessions in holding leadership to account and reminding the journalists that forging an accountable society comes from an undiluted commitment and a work culture that cannot permit of removing your hands from the plow. The energy, the zest, the zeal with which he worked was infectious, and then it burns out, surrendering to mortality. And Monday morning becomes morning on a Monday. It does not taste good to taste death, except that Celeste Nwoko, the late high life musician, said that it's a debt which every man must pay. We keep moving until we burn out anyhow or pay the debt we owe. That is the way of the mortal.
Don't
As more Nigerians are being killed across states in the country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been meeting with the service chiefs. And reports indicate that was a routine meeting. And that is what agitates me this afternoon. Before Tinubu was declared president, and in his inaugural speech on May 29, he said he will prioritize security. And this means that he had a clear understanding of the existential challenge which security poses for Nigeria, and that he has plans to address the situation head on. Routine meetings are a luxury because, as Bob Marley said in one of his interviews, those who want to make this world worse don't take a day off. Why should I? Now, in the midst of the contentions over the 2023 elections, a letter purportedly written by some unhappy military officers surfaced in the social media. Now, the soldiers were threatening unorthodox reaction to what they called corruption at the highest level of the military. Now, I will be relieved if that letter is fake news. However, Nigeria's security calls for urgent attention. Tinubu cannot afford to sleep on it, isn't it? This is the signature show on AIT. We take a break and return shortly. Please stay with us. Now, the House of Representatives, shortly before the end of the 9th National Assembly, urged the federal government to remove all subsidy from every petroleum product in the country. And this means that the honorable members do not want the Petroleum Industry Act to be a law in vain, since it provides for the deregulation of the petroleum industry. But a coalition of civil society groups with the umbrella name of Free Nigeria Movement then issued a 7-day ultimatum to the federal government to revert to the 195 naira per litre pump price of petrol, or they will ground the nation. The Nigeria Labour Congress also says that though it has not made progress in its meeting with the new government, it would not call out workers on strike. The Tinubu government has announced and begun the implementation of a policy of an end to subsidy on petrol, which Buhari administration, if you remember, handed over to it. The policy has brought wild wind, and many Nigerians are complaining. We took up this issue with the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN. It is our first interview for this Sunday. Please stay with us. Chinedu, you are welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
Let us dwell on IPMAN and the removal of subsidy on petrol. Can we go back a little bit? Right from the Obasanjo time in 2007, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala had warned this country that unless fuel subsidy was removed, the national economy could be on its knees. Her mother was kidnapped on account of daring that matter. Under Jonathan, for daring it on January the 12th, 2014 or 2012, I couldn't remember which year, civil society organizations, political activists put this country on its knees on account of the same effort to remove fuel subsidy. The Nigerian Labour Congress was not in favor. IPMAN was not in favor. Now that the subsidy on petrol has been removed, what is the position of IPMAN?
Well, my brother, thank you very much. And it's a really trying time for the country. I want to commend Mr. President and welcome him. I also want to recall that during the campaigns, he invited us to an interactive section, independent petroleum marketers, led by Alhaji Ahmed Debo. we interacted with him. He was amiably represented by Adams Oshimole, the comrade governor. And one of the issues that is in the front burner of our discussion with Mr. President is how to remove fuel subsidy. Because you have enumerated that from Buhari, from Obasanjo regime to Jonathan to Buhari, this thing has been a recurring decimal that so many administration does not have the aura to remove. I also want to commend Mr. President for taking the bulls by the horn, because we will also continue to discuss modalities to remove this fuel subsidy. For the past 20-something years, and everybody know, including me and you know, that the corruption in fuel subsidy practice in Nigeria has burdened the Nigerian economy economically. And if a renowned economist like Okonjo-Iweala would come out and say, he's not the president, he's not from any political party, he's a professional accountant, worldwide renowned person, economist, who come out and made a policy statement that we should end fuel scarcity, subsidy. It is important that we should look into why is this people crying that this fuel subsidy should be removed. And today, Mr. President, in his own inaugural speech, for the first time, made one most important policy statement. It was a policy statement by Mr. President. And it's somebody that this thing has been burning in his heart, that he will not condone this corruption. He will not condone this menace, that this menace must go one day. And how it will go, he said he knows how to do it. If you follow his campaign, I follow his campaign religiously. He said, I know how to do it. And I also believe that the Nigerians should give him a chance to be able to put in practice those tenets, those things he knows how to do, because he has been a successful businessman. Before we had an interactive section with Mr. President, we run his background biography and his business antecedent. We have said that he's never been a failure in business. And if you give him Nigeria to manage, I also believe strongly that he will also not fail us. What he needed from us is support. So that is why I'm saying that if this thing is a recurring decimal, why don't we bring the arithmetic to solve it?
Yes, let us solve this arithmetic. You have not answered my question. Yes. Does Ipman support the removal of subsidy on petrol?
I said we have interaction with Mr. President, and we agreed with him because he said he knows how to do it. We support him foolishly. We want this first subsidy to be removed. You understand? But the modalities of the removal is what we are patiently waiting for, that interactive section, because he has had interactive session with TUC and Labour. We're also expecting that Mr. President will also invite Ipman leadership to be able to sit down with Ipman leadership and also have interactive session so that we can be able to tell our marketers this is the way these things are going.
I was going to ask a question before you just raised the matter of this, the need for the president to have an interface with Ipman. If the president has an interface with the Ipman, what will Ipman be telling him?
If the president has an interface with Ipman, we also have our own challenges, which we also want the president to put on record.
Like?
The challenges of the source of our products. 2, banking. 3, storage facility. Because Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has 90% of the retail outlets in the looks and cranny. And it's not a minor stakeholder in terms of distribution of petroleum products in this country. We have a robust structure in the looks and cranny of this country, even to the hinterland. We have structure. There is no place in this country that you go in, you will not find one independent marketer filling station. So we have the structure. We also want to be in the scheme of things. We don't want to continue to source our product from government depots, from private depots. We also want to import our own product. We also want to establish our own modular refinery. We also want to partner with Dangote refinery. So that, because when we have variabilities of sourcing your petroleum product, you can be able to dance with prices.
But you're a businessman. If
Yes.
man members are business people, why must they hang their challenges on the neck of government? A businessman goes into the market. It's a free market. Source your product, sell, make your profit or run a loss.
I'm just hearing from you now that it's a free market. You see, you also remember that petroleum product is an essential product. It is not like that ordinary product.
I hope you know that beans and rice are essential products.
Yes.
And gari too.
Yes. But they are not being regulated by government. We have policemen of the industry. That is why you see the independent marketers, if isn't the establishment of independent market is by the edict. It's an act of the parliament. It is not like an ordinary association, as you may think. It's very, very sensitive. We are the last people that breaks the bulk of the petroleum distribution. So it is a sensitive place. We also, okay, beans and gari, are they essential workers? During your public holidays, sometimes we don't go for public holidays. When you go, say you are holding.
You are very correct, except that that woman who sells beans in the market never goes on holidays. But let me pick from what you just said. Yeah. You said that there was need to remove the subsidy on petrol as a means of solving the humongous corruption that subsidy seems to have created in the country. Yes. Who are the beneficiaries of subsidy? Not IPMAN members? Don't IPMAN members benefit from subsidy on petrol?
You see, the issue of beneficiary of subsidy of petroleum product, we are ordinary Nigerians. Even if my members are ordinary Nigerians like you. We are the third tier of breaking the bulk of dispensing of petroleum products in the country. We are not into production, neither whether we are galvanizing or NNPC. We're not members of DAPMA, we don't own tank farms. What we normally do is use our trucks, go to the filling, any of these depots, buy our fuel, come back to our filling station, and dispense to you and me. You understand me? So the nitty-gritty of what goes in terms of production, because I'm a Nigerian, I also feel the brunt. If Nigeria can spend 11 trillion from 2010 to 2020 to just turn around maintenance for refineries, and none of them is coming up. I'm a Nigerian, I should shed tears. I'm a patriotic Nigerian. I should shed tears. If I'm a filling station owner, does not make me, I should not understand that there is serious corruption in our fatherland. We will be so happy that Kaduna refinery is working. Warrior refinery is working. Port Harcourt refinery is working. We will be so happy because it will limit us to our TDZ. Our TDZ means where it is within the radius of 400 to 500 kilometers, or even 200 kilometers, so that you can be able to source your product. And you go to your filling station, within a short period of 2-3 hours, you have discharged. But now our trucks move for more than 3, 4, 5 days, with almost 1.5 million naira as dispatch to go and get products from Apapa. And when you get to Apapa, there's a dreadlock. And the driver will spend there 5 days, 6 days. You will be feeding the driver with your own personal fund. You will buy diesel at the rate of 780 naira. And sometimes you buy bad diesel because you cannot even find good diesel. You buy bad one, the generator will be bad, your trucks will knock on the road. Federal government is not giving you any palliative. Federal government is not sponsoring you. You fix the truck. You will now bring back this product to your stations. And federal government and NDPR will still come and ask you to sell it at government approved pump price without even knowing the circumstances of your product arriving at your station. So that is what we say. We want the regulation. We want the demand and supply. Forces of market to determine the price. If you can be able to source your product in Medugri, fine and good for you. If you can source in Dangote, fine and good for you. If you can source around the riverine areas, fine and good. Why did the business of the tank farms, why is it flourishing? The tank farms are even growing higher than filling station owners because Nigeria is heavily dependent on importation of petroleum products. And people are building tank farms around the coastal area to be able to ensure they can also have bite a bit of the cake. You understand me? So if this is another, that people would have used those money to be able to also open satellite or invest in the economy, in agriculture, or in other places. So if you say, how is it benefiting me? It's not benefiting me. I don't want that corruption. I want my driver to go to work today and come back to my house. I don't want my driver to leave my house and spend 4 or 5 days. Now, product is close to 24 million naira per truck. That means you need an escort. You need a police escort to escort it. Because 24 million naira on a lonely road. Members of independent marketers are dying of high BP. So when you were talking about how do we benefit from removal of subsidy, it's enormous. If we can be able to see these refineries working and see these molecular refineries working, I want to tell you the independent marketers will be the happiest person. We'll stay in our filling station, get our products as quickly as possible, make our profit. Our main interest is to ensure that we do turnover. Now, the government said we should pay 20-something million naira to be able to get a truck of petroleum product. Now you still have to go to your bank. You still have to fill all types of forms with high interest rate, and you will go and pay this money in NNPCL. That money will be there for 3, 4, 5 months, yielding interest.
Okay, let us.
So how do I put? How do I recover
let
that?
us converse on solution. I'm taking from what we just said now. If you can just go to Maiduguri and source your product 200 kilometers radius you sell. Yeah. I think the federal government has thought about that a long time back and issued licenses for the establishment of modular refineries, including to your members. Why are your members not utilizing those licenses to provide the kind of solution you just mentioned now?
Okay, you also look at some of the modular refineries that has been operating, like the Niger Delta refinery, like Watersmith. I know that Edo refinery is on steam. I also know that I'm aware. I was part of the delegation when we interfaced with the new governor of Rivers State, Fubara Sim, about establishing a modular refinery in partnership with IPMAN. You understand? Because we are the off-takers. And I think he agreed with us that Rivers State is going to look in that direction, towards that direction. And independent markets, we are ready.
What does the consumer expect in the final analysis from this removal of subsidy? Just a minute. In Lagos, in Maiduguri, in Owerri, in Nnewi and Onitsha, in Calabar and Port Harcourt, is IPMAN in a position to maintain the same prices?
Well, it is good to know that we are heavily dependent on importation of petroleum products. None of these products both of us use today and many Nigerians are produced here in Nigeria. They are all imported products. And it's got to do with vessel. It also got to do with coastal areas. The coastal areas where products are coming from is Calabar, Port Harcourt, and Lagos. After these 3 coastal areas, other states feed from these 3, and Ogara, yes, Delta states. So after these 4 states, the whole rest of the country feeds from these states. And that is why federal government brought in petroleum equalization fee. The petroleum PEF, when they were doing their unbonding and rebranding, bringing one old keg in a new wine in an old keg, they decided to merge NDPR which is DPR before, with PEF, which is Petroleum Equalization Fund, just to try to equalize petroleum products in the dry states and the wet states, so that those in the dry states, maybe let me use the word, in the northern parts of the country, will not suffer so much, and will also get petroleum products in a uniform price with those in the southern and the coastal areas. So independent marketers, we have our members in the north, and you find out that we have most of our major marketers, what I call celebrity marketers, like AY Shafa and the rest of them, in the north. You come down to the west, we also have some celebrated marketers and also in the southeast. And most of these will go out of their way to ensure that petroleum product is sold in Bruno, Meduguri, and all the rest of them. Now, the job of the independent marketer is to go to these coastal areas. We don't have any option. That's why I said in the beginning of this our interview that we have just one source. If there are sources, if now they have discovered crude oil in the northern part of the country, and there is a Muda refinery, our members will source from there. Now in Port Harcourt, our members will source in Port Harcourt. Delta, our members will source in Delta. Lagos, our members will source in Lagos.
In other words, the prices cannot be uniform.
Otherwise, the prices cannot be uniform. Because to move a truck from Brno or from Damatru to Lagos will cost you no less than 2 million naira. Why to move a truck from Apapa to Lekki will may cost around 150,000. So that is why federal government bring equalization fund.
Yeah, let me see. Your only source today is imported products by
NMPC.
Very good. If we are deregulating the downstream industry, if the federal government is removing subsidy, it wants a free market. It wants market-determined price. Are your members in a position and are they prepared to bring in their own product? I've asked you about I've asked about modular refineries.
It is competitive.
Are you prepared to bring your own product?
We are battle ready. We are battle ready.
What's holding you down?
What is holding us now is for government to roll out modalities. You can't just go and import petroleum products.
You know that there are two factors we are considering this afternoon. You want to join your competitor. You want to join your competitor to import. You flood the market with products. That's one. We are saying that your competitor is also bringing in imported inflation because it says it brings in the product at international market rate.
Yes.
And the alternative is building your modular refineries and locally determining your price because you're getting your crude from Nigeria. So no matter how you buy your crude, it cannot be as rough as going to source the crude from outside.
Yes. Or even sourcing finished products from outside.
Now these are two options.
Yes.
Available to Ipman.
Yes.
If you are wearing the two, if you are weighing them on the scale of priority, which one would Ipman push harder and faster?
Option A.
And that is?
Option A is sourcing our products from local refineries, that's modular refineries, and Dangote refineries. Because the issue of vessel, only the freight of vessel alone, you know, like during this period under review, the price of vessel was around $60-something thousand. It has moved to $100-something thousand. You understand? It has a multiple effect on the price of petroleum products. So if that one is eradicated, you can see have saved already 10 to 15 naira from the pump price. It's simple arithmetic.
Are your members ready to move into modular refineries?
My chief,
Yes, please.
we are over ready. And I want Mr. President to use independent marketers to demystify this issue of importation of petroleum products.
Well, it's a matter of the chicken and the egg, which one comes first. But Chinedu, there's just one last thing. I was about to congratulate you, But I just put back my hand because I understand that this sudden announcement with all the products you guys had in your depot, which were selling at 192, 195, and just in a matter of seconds, were to sell them at 500 naira, 540, 588, that your members have made a kill. Can I congratulate you on the much money your members have just suddenly made?
Well, I will also
That
congratulate.
many of you have
No,
become.
no, 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 no.
That the present government has
clear.
made you
No,
instant billionaires.
no, no. Let me clear. Let me clear. A product that was bought for 8.1 million is now selling for 24 million.
You had all the fuel in your dumps.
Even if you
After 1 second, the thing turned into gold.
it is not gold, because the man who brought you here today, who bought fuel from our filling station at 190 naira,
Making you,
and he really had the announcement. He told you a drop is 120.
it's all your money, independent marketers' money.
Because he also want to have some money in his hand to be able to go back to buy at the predatory rate.
But when you buy from your depot now, you still sell at a higher price.
No. How can we sell?
You're not losing.
No, how can we sell at a high price? The product now is 24 million. What we have now is 8.1 million. So how do we get the differential? It seems I have to come to you to see how I can raise money.
When we meet, we do the arithmetic.
Thank you very much.
Now, as the new federal administration settles down, many Nigerians expect that as a government that has for a long time prepared itself for power, names of ministers and their portfolios will be submitted to the National Assembly as quickly as that assembly is proclaimed. But what issues should concern the new administration? Roads, rails, bridges? We think that there should be more to Nigeria's development agenda than those things. This is the focus of our next interview this Sunday. Please stay with us. Let me welcome this afternoon Nigeria's ambassador to Burundi, His Excellency Onyagba.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Your Excellency, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You saw the way I opened this thing. I'm a little worried. My generation is an exiting generation.
That's correct.
But what are we leaving behind? If you asked me, I said kind of confusion. Do you think we're leaving behind confusion?
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure being on your show. Nigeria is a very interesting country. This is a nation that is endowed with a lot of human and natural resources. We thank God for thus far we have come. But when we look at the history, you know, there's this common saying that to make projection into the future, you need to look a little bit backwards. Talking about the value system, I think that generally our value system has deteriorated over the years. And I will agree, I'm a young man, but I think that there's a lot of confusion that this exiting generation is leaving behind. We are all part of it, and the way I'm personally built and developed is such that we see a problem and we find a way to solve it. But again, a good solution to problems, must come from a very good diagnosis of those problems. You don't begin to treat malaria when what you have is headache, and vice versa. Otherwise, once the prognosis is wrong, obviously we know what the outcome is going to be. So I think that time has come, and this conversation, we are stepping into a new government. Without a doubt, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But beyond that, governance is there, value system is there, which basically guides everybody from our families to churches, to the society, to cultural settings that we have across the length and breadth of the country. So to that extent, I think the conversation must be had, or sorry, must hold at this point in time concerning what kind of value system we have.
Let me interject here.
Yeah.
If the value is supposed to drive national thought, national action, it should be more than the political party, more
Absolutely.
than the government.
Absolutely.
It should even guide the judiciary. It should guide science and technology. Once upon a time, this country, they say, Nigeria had a set of guiding values towards which it was building to become a great nation. But there are doubts today. Have you tried to think of what has gone wrong?
Yes, I have thought about your question. You know, there's a particular verse or stanza in the old national anthem that talked about the fact that though tribes and tongue may differ, but in brotherhood we stand. What that meant is that there's a recognition that there are lots of tribes. In fact, very, if you like, call it very many nations that come together to make up the country. I'm a diplomat, and in diplomacy, one of the things you find while you travel around and about the nations of the world is to find out that the people, a group of people in Nigeria can actually be a country elsewhere. In East Africa, for example, I work in Burundi. Burundi is just like one state in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Rwanda is just like one state out of the 36 that we have in Nigeria. So clearly, there is this understanding at the time that that first national anthem was written, taking cognizance of the fact that we are different people. But though we are different, there are things that bring us together. So yes, that is how we started. But over the years, we are beginning to find solace. We are beginning to find expression. We are beginning to find unity more in the things that divide us than the things that separate us. To such an extent that, people see themselves as members of a tribe first before becoming Nigerians. Not that there's anything wrong with you identifying yourself that you come from a tribe, but it appears that the interest of this tribe and perhaps the interest of the religion now trumps national interest and values. And we can date back to see what has happened over the years. I was, I was trained by, my mother is a primary school teacher, was a primary school teacher. My father is a pastor. There were things that you couldn't do. I remember before I even tried to get married, my father said, no, you can't marry without coming home to discuss it. He said to me clearly, marriage is not something, I need to tell you how it works in the family. And by the time I made time to go and meet him, he said, listen, I cannot follow you to go and marry and then you come back tomorrow and say you're divorcing your wife. That's not, if it has to happen, it will happen in my absence. So at least I will know that I have done my own part. So he put me through the rudiments, but for me, it's not something you just wake up and he passed it on to me. You wouldn't just come and see any girl and say you want to get married to the person. So the rule is that you have to do a lot of things. You have to study. You have to even ask questions, inquire. What kind of family? What is this? And know the golden rule. Once you are in, there's no going out. So it's a bit challenging because we're coming from that kind of training and that kind of background where homes break. I've attended a wedding and before I got to the venue, they said that the people sent a message and said they're not able to get married in the first. Then they've decided they're going to, everybody's going to go their separate ways. We've attended weddings and a couple of months down the line, everybody have gone their separate ways. So the opportunity is right there for us to begin to interrogate these values. What has happened in the past, what we're currently doing, and how we can improve.
There is this concept of universal justice, universal merit, by which American institutions are said to apply same rule across board, and that makes their society to work. But here in Nigeria, our experience seems to be, leave that thief. He is my own thief. Don't touch my thief. Leave that incompetent person in that position, that incompetence is mine. And therefore, there's no universal merit and there's no universal justice. How can we begin to? What kind of conversation should we be having to help this universality in application of values?
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting question that you have brought up, and I'll give you my views as to what I think is the way forward. The way the country is set up, we put the founders of the nation put a lot of work in trying to unite the country, and that's why in the system they introduced something like federal character to say that there should be representation of every part. If you're hiring for a ministry, if you're hiring even at management level, you know, where you come from, the states you represent, and all of these should actually be part of the discourse. While that is good, intrinsically we have been promoting incompetence and inefficiencies in some of these things that we did. While federal character is important, the reason why countries like America has thrived is that, yes, they recognize that they are a 50-state nation, or 50 states nation, yeah? But they have managed to elevate competence. What is the American dream? They had something they call the American dream that basically says you can achieve anything you want, provided that you work hard for it. So I feel that at this point in time, we need to begin to move away from the representation and begin to focus on the kind of quality and competence that we want to build. It doesn't really matter, it shouldn't matter who leads, particularly at the political level. The question should be, is this person qualified? Does he have the capacity to, what exactly does he bring to the table that is better than the rest of the people?
Let me draw your attention to the line, politics is a game of number, or when politicians are campaigning, they use these fault lines to win election. And politicians are supposed to produce the leadership. So if the leadership is stewed, is drawn into divisive rhetoric in order to win election, they want to win election. Don't vote for that person because it is not their turn, for instance. Don't vote for that person because he's a Christian or a Muslim. Don't vote for that person because they have held power for so long. And all these things shun the conversation, shun the campaign of competence. This man has held this position, had this experience, and therefore if you bring him there, he has something to offer. That is not the conversation. How do we, Your Excellency, begin to help politics and politicians to get out of this mire? Because it's a mire that it can drown us.
Thank you very much. Let me say this. Yes, let me say this. A leader is selected from amongst the people. So what you find in leadership is what exactly is the position with the people. I hear you loud and clear that these fault lines actually come to play. Let me tell you why. The first time I wanted to run for elections, I went to my people, to the very young people, and I said to them, listen, I'm one of you. I want you to elect me, support me, to do this and do this and do that and all of that. And then after the meeting, everybody stood up and went away. A couple of minutes later, I began to get barrage of abuses because you called us, you didn't give us anything. Are you serious at all? You said you want to run for political office and then you call people without giving them something and all of that. Now, there is already this understanding that once it's politics, it's people that have money.
It has a cost.
That has to be, if you are not ready, you know, and this
now,
is...
mark that word.
Yes.
If you are not ready.
Yes.
And being ready means...
Yes. And being ready means...
you bring your money.
Nobody's asking, actually, where your money has come from. Whether you duped somebody or whether you took government money and all of that, too. So I am very careful to... to ascribe blame to politicians that it is just their fault. Because before I became a politician, I wasn't. I only made an attempt to say, listen, the criticism part is the easiest part. The most difficult part is to throw your hat in the ring to say, I think I have,
What it takes to
I think
create a
what I think
change.
I have what it takes to be able to get onto the system. That's always the difficult part because it's a big risk to take. Sometimes you leave a very plum job. Sometimes it's at the risk of your family. Sometimes you expose yourself needlessly. But someone has to do the job. Someone has to come and put their hats in the ring and say, it's my head up against the block. We can't just continue with what is going on. Now, I think there's a lot of education, and that's why I'm happy with this kind of conversation that we're having. I think the people need to begin to understand that politics and the people is just a class issue. When you go to National Assembly, an APC senator is friendly with the Labour Party senator, is friendly with at that point, it's like members of a club. So whichever way you used to enter, it's not an
It
issue.
doesn't count again.
It doesn't count. We have eventually found ourselves here. So how can we work together? How come when budget is being shared or when budget is being
Put together and projects
padded or whatever, how come they don't have a problem when
Problem.
it comes to that? How come there's no problem sharing money or doing? How come the problem actually comes when it's time for the elections? So this is the kind of conversation that we must bring to the people to say, listen, once you come to me to begin to play religious card, obviously I know it's a no-no. Once you come to me to begin to play ethnic card, I should know that it's a no-no. After all,
when you get there, there's the ethnicity.
when you get there, I haven't seen anybody challenging, to say that you are from North or you're from South. No, it's not an issue right now. Right now, people are clamoring to get certain positions, either at the, in the 10th Assembly leadership. This time, the issue of where you come from or religion does not come to people even think that it's normal for, once I've been elected by my people, I can, so you go to them, you talk to them, talking about your vote and all of that. How come it's when we now want to move into the real election that this, and the annoying part of it is that lives are lost. Our young people get exposed needlessly just on the account of the fact that they can't do anything. So I think that we must elevate this conversation. We must bring it to the consciousness of the people that things are not the way they seem or we make it present. Nigeria is such a blessed nation. It's not a problem for an Igbo man and an Hausa man to do business. They've always done it. It's not a problem for a Yoruba man and an Hausa man to do business. They've always done it. It's the biggest refinery in the world today. It's built by a northerner, and it's built in Lagos. So why should that become a problem? Another one is being, I think another one, the Boa one is also coming up in Akwa Ibom, as the case may be. So it's important for us to understand that we should remove these cloaks of tribe and religion. By the way, religion is also between yourself and your God. So why should that become an issue when it comes to leadership? I think it's important that we also begin to look at the characters of the people. What have they done in the past? What kind of experiences do they bring to bear? This is an interesting country where people want to run the nation first before they run their personal businesses. You get to people who have not run, they haven't even married their wife and stayed together and, built a family that you can look and say, no, this is worthy of emulation. And they want to lead the country, even with having their homes in tatters.
I'm counting down.
Yes.
I've got a signal from my producer. Something very important to me. All this conversation, we began it with my exiting generation. But for the youth, how do we recruit them into this new thought? Because really this country belongs to them. So if we exit and leave it tattered, they suffer. How do we begin to recruit them into the new thought?
What I think is that they have to be involved. There's a book written by Ojukwu who said, because I'm involved. You don't make policies for people and want to impose those policies on them. And that's why one of the things that we're looking forward in this new administration is that the president made a speech and said that the young people will feature prominently in his government. By the time young people are involved, it's a lot easier for me to relate with people of my generation that it is, for you to relate with them. A situation where we feel that people have been in this position and they've continued to be in that position without wanting to give way. Power to the oppressed is demanded, not begged. You are likely to find, revolutions of some sort if people don't think that they are being carried along. So I think that the generation, the youths of today, should be on the table. They are no longer, they shouldn't just be there as agents of violence or agents for cultism, or you keep talking about them. No, they have to be on the table, and that engagement must continue. And we must raise this conversation at national level, at state level, at local government level, at the church level, at the political level, at the social level. Whichever way we need to be able to raise it, we have to raise it and let our voice be heard, so that people will begin to understand that a generation is going, another is also coming in, because there must be a baton. In a relay race, you run and hand over the baton. So the question is, what kind of baton are you handing over? Or are you still running and expecting the person you're handing over the baton to be chasing you when you have finished your own race? So this is my conversation, and this is my submission, that we will continue to have this discussion, but that discussion has to go on with the people concerned on the table, so that they can actually make policies about themselves. They know where, he who wears the shoes knows where he's paying them. When you went to school, you probably were told that the moment you graduate from school, there's a job waiting for you.
There was a job.
Today, exactly, there was a job waiting for you.
And there was a car.
Exactly, and there was a car waiting for you. Today, we have been to school. People have had first degree, had second degree. There are PhD holders that are professionals that are looking for jobs today. There are medical doctors that are out of school and they can find where to work. So times have changed. So I think it's important that they are on the table when these decisions and policies are being made by government, so that they can contribute. If there are things, look at the population of a country. When you were in school, I'm sure you know the number. These days, I'm sure if you have to tell the story of your university days, you will probably have been the only person in your room. But these days, we are in the universities where it is shameful to talk about.
After dinner, now after your lunch, you have ice cream.
After your lunch, you have ice cream. But now, we have about 10, 20 people in one room in the university. And these are the kind of environments where people are actually coming out. So I think that attention has to be paid. The reason is because the population of this country, 75% of that number is under the age of 35. This is a time bomb that we're waiting for it to explode. So if it's something that I believe that if we pay the right attention to, provide for them, they need to be engaged, because when you have a booming population, that population can actually be turned to something productive. That's why I believe that we may not, even though we don't have the technology and the arms and the whatever in terms of the strong powers, we have the soft powers. Diplomacy is soft power. Talent in the creative industries, that will find expression in the form of music and in the form of arts and all of that, is also an opportunity that government can create. And this sector and these young people can actually contribute to the growth of the country. It's about your idea. It's about creativity. It's about what you can do that differentiates you. And you can actually sell it to the world. Talk about our food. Talk about our music. Talk about our movies. So I believe that a lot of young people can actually join once they have an understanding. They are not fools. The thinking is that some of these going generations don't care about them. But once you begin to let them know that you care, and that's by, first of all, involving them, and then having a discussion with them. The way it is. There are certain things you don't have to tell your children on the phone. There are certain discussions you must have face to face. So I believe that once that opportunity is created, I think we can find ways of closing this gap.
Your Excellency, I want to thank you very much for coming to the conversation.
Thank you so very much. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And now for our thank you. Now, at the opening of today's edition of the program, I asked us a question: if mortality is a mockery or a mystery about our existence. Celeste Noko and his Philosophers National provide their own answer. It is a debt, they say, which every man must pay.
Located missing ganga in a panu. A bobuni panye no one on Kulechai. A located missing the line a menu. A bobuni panye no one on Kulechai. Imegodum manu one on Kulechai. Imegodum John one on Kulechai. Ipasigoda conco one on Kulechai. Idasigodo boye nuwa nongu kuleche. Maka nongu bunu kwa nyoku na jinuchi. iwu bụ na a ga-akwụ ya akwụ.
Thank you, Celestine, who has already paid his own debt. And thank you for investing your time with us this Sunday. My name is Mwabuoze Njoko. Good afternoon.